I have $20 here in my right-hand pocket. You believe that? If you believe it, raise your hand. Show me your sign of hand. You believe that I have $20. Raise your hand. Others don't believe me, huh? Well, if you raise your hand, that's good, because then that's a sign of faith, isn't it? That's a sign of faith, because you can't see it. All right? So you got to trust me, I suppose. I'm sure you probably think, well, what's $20? Not that much. He's in church. He's not going to lie here, I hope. Play games, whatever it may be. There's reasons why you believe. But truly, it's an act of faith because you can't see it. Now, maybe if I said to you, I have $1,000 in my pocket, do you believe that? Maybe you might be a little bit slow to believe, right? You raise the stakes. But also, if I told you, I have $20 right here in my hand, do you believe it? Of course, you might say, well, unless there's some sort of, what's going on? Of course, well, you see it. That's not faith. Because you see it, that's no big thing. But I have $20 in my pocket you can't see. Well, now that's a sign of faith. Trusting in something that you cannot see. And that's like to focus on our second reading from Hebrews. Evidence of things not seen. Faith. All right? And that's what faith is. Faith in God is believing, really, you can't see God. Right? That's faith, to believe that there's a God, there's a heaven, there's a life after this. There's faith, there's faith. And one of the great figures they give in this talking about faith is Abraham. I like Abraham. He's the first one to believe in the one true God, and he's the one person, the only person in Scripture that is claimed, that is honored, that has their heritage by the three great monotheistic religions, those who believe in one God. All three faiths, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. We all sort of claim Abraham. He's the only one that we can share together. Anyway, did you know there are two types of faith? Think back to your school days. What were the two types of faith? Well, because really it wasn't in the catechism, I just have my own two types of faith. So you're not expected to know that. At least I don't think so. The two types of faith to me is this: I hope so faith, and get off your knees and act faith. Those are the two faiths. I hope so faith, and get off your knees. Abraham exemplifies both of those faith. I hope so faith. And what do I mean by hope so faith? That's most of what we consider faith. It means I pray to God, hoping that He intercede, do something on my behalf. I hope God will hear my prayer. So I have people who are ill, people who are sick, people who are out of work, right? So we have those names in the bulletin, names in the adoration chapel, your own prayers. And we're kind of hoping that God will do something for us. I hope so. And we consider that a sign of faith, trusting God that He will do something because His word's true. And some people have tremendous I hope so faith. They don't just pray for days, weeks, months, but sometimes for years. So, wow, what faith? They don't even give up. They just keep it years. And so how did Abraham exemplify this? Abraham, go back in the Old Testament, Genesis, beginning with chapter 11, you see that though he was rich and many possessions, his wife, Sarai, could not have children. And of course, back in the Scriptures, to have a child, to be blessed by God, and not to have a child, you're being cursed, because that's your security, that's your strength, that's your protection, to have a children. There's no security. You need children. And so she had no children. She's up in years, and gets it. Next year, when I come back, Sarah will have a child. And Sarah laughs. You're right. you're right. She laughs. That can't be true. But Abraham believes. Abraham believes that he will have a child. And that's, I hope so. Trusting in something we can't see, him trusting God's true. I hope so faith. Now, the thing about hope so faith is this. You don't lose anything if it doesn't work out, right? You kind of stay the same. If a year later she doesn't have a child, well, I don't have a child now, I don't have a child then. Nothing really changed. The status sort of stays the same. Now, this other faith, get off your knees and act, that's a different faith. And again, this exemplified by good old Abraham. Though he may not have children, he was rich. He had much land and much livestock, possessions. He was wealthy. He lived in what we call today Iraq, along the Tigris-Euphrates River, so he's by water. Living by water when in the desert is very, very crucial, very important. It's hard to explain his riches. Let me try to make a comparison. Has anyone here ever been to Naples, Florida? Raise your hand if you've been to Naples. I was there a couple weeks ago for 2 days. I went to Ave Maria University. Anyway, I went and see some of these homes on the water. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness, I've seen some nice homes in the Bronx. But nothing like, you got any pictures of those homes? One home in Naples there, look at that. That's beautiful, isn't it? Go ahead, next. That's a nice little place to live. I can get comfortable. Oh my goodness, huh? I can see myself sitting there. That'd be a nice rectory. Yes, it would. Yes, it would. Another one there, Richard? Is that the last one? Any other pictures? Can we go back to that pool? I like that pool scene, all right? Go back to that beautiful pool scene. There we are. I just leave that up there. So I said, Abraham is what we call wealthy. How would it look like? Well, this would it look like today. This is what Abraham would have. He's 75 years old. He's semi-retired and not having any children. He doesn't have any grandchildren to bother him. So he's out there. He is taking it easy. And all of a sudden, this Lord voice tells Abraham, guess what? I want you to leave that. Hey, put the picture. I'm at the pool there, my friend. Thank you. I want you to leave that and go to this promised land, to go to the land. What? You want me to leave this and go where? Who did you say you were again? You gotta be kidding me. Leave? I'm 75 years old. I got it. Unknown place, and I got it. Would you leave? Would you get up and go? He does. He leaves. Okay. I had no experience with God. This is what the first thing he tells him to leave. And think about that. That's faith. Because in this case, if it doesn't work out, I said, oh my God, I gave up. Look at me now. I'm in a desert. And that's Abraham. And that's get off your knees and act. And it's much, much harder than I hope so, faith. Because if it doesn't work out, boy, you're sunk. Remember last week the gospel sort of focused on for those who do not get rich in what matters to God. Remember the last phrase? For those who do not get rich in what matters to God. We said we got to get rich in what matters to God. So that takes faith. One, to believe there's a God. And to believe that what we do matters to God, that he takes notice. Anyway, after that, before this gospel, they left out a chunk. The chunk is, look at the lilies in the field, how God cares for the flowers, how God cares for the birds in the air. And if he takes care of them, will he not take care of you who are much more special to God? Do you believe that? So therefore, if you believe that, that's faith. And that's why this makes sense. Therefore, if you believe that God will take care of you, he says this, sell your belongings and give alms. Be generous. Trust God. Oh, and that's tough. Get off your knees and act. And that's why we speak of the stewardship way of life. I will give of my time, my talent, my treasure, because I will trust you. And that you will take care of me. Because I know about you. By the time I go in my wallet and write a check, it's okay. I will trust. I will trust. And getting ready for the summer, you read the different authors, commentators. One of them was his father, John Kavanaugh. And he shared a story years ago. He went to spend a month in Calcutta, India, for the sole purpose because he wanted to meet Mother Teresa. As fate would have it, his luck worked out. He met her his very first day there. It was right after the early morning mass at dawn, and their paths cross. And he sees Mother Teresa. He says, Mother, I want you to pray for me. I want you to pray that I have clarity. And there, this little tiny little feeble little holy saintly nun, she looks up at him and gives him a one-word answer. No. Be rejected by Mother Teresa? Yeah. I mean, all he did was ask for prayer. Come on, didn't ask to be successful, be rich. No. Why not? And she said, because that's the last thing you're holding on to. He said, Mother Teresa, I've longed for the the clarity that you have had most of your life. And she laughed. And she looked at him and said, I have never had clarity. All I have is trust. And I pray that you will trust as well. Those are powerful words. I have never had clarity, she said. I never knew, is this exactly what God wanted me from, I never knew what would happen, the future. It wasn't this clear purpose. All I have is trust. That's faith. That's faith. Thursday and Friday, I attended this called Global Leader Summit, where they have these speakers on talk about leadership and running a church, a business. It took place in Chicago, but they had these simulcast in different parts of the country, and right here in Florida, so I attended. And one of the speakers was a man named Mark Burnett. You may not know him by name, but he's executive producer of these TV shows. Let me tell you, he's quite successful. Mark Burnett here, all right? You may see some of the shows that he has done. Survivor. Anybody watch Survivor? Anybody seen stuff? Yeah, #1 reality. You have a TV? Oh, okay, good. Survivor. You heard of it though, right? Okay, you heard of it. Celebrity Apprentice, The Voice, Shark Tank, all right? He was voted by Time magazine one of the most influential people, okay, in the world. Quite successful. But he's also the one who produced, just this last spring, the Bible. Anyone who's seen that? It was out for a couple of weeks, the Bible. He also did that, the Bible. Now, that one's a little bit different for him, because Bible and Hollywood normally don't mix. And so he told the people in Hollywood and his friends that he wants to do something in the Bible. He said, what? What do you want to do that for? We're not interested. And his friends tell him, hey, what, are you kidding me? Why do you want to ruin it? You're successful, you're rich, you're doing great, stay what you're doing. The Bible? But he said he had to do it. He felt it was a call from God, that he felt inspired to produce this series on the Bible. Now, the only challenge now is that he's not getting financial backing. So now what do you do? He goes, well, I'll put the money up. Well, that's a lot of money. And if it doesn't work, ew. That's faith. Not knowing how it's going to be received but he felt called by God to do this. And as you see, it became quite popular, quite successful. But the point is, it took faith to believe that this is what God wants me to do, despite all the naysayers, and despite the cost. Let's get off your knees and act. I was reading this book and talk about skiing. Anybody ski here? Snow ski? Anybody? I don't ski. I'm too chicken, man. And plus, I don't like the cold. That's why I'm in Florida. I don't snow ski. But imagine it must be exhilarating. I mean, it must be quite a thrill to go down that hill and feel that nice cold air. Whoa, huh? That must be a lot of fun. I'm sure it is, but I ain't not ready for that. When I'm reading about this slalom skiing, and then they have people who are totally blind who slalom ski. Now, slalom ski is going in and out of those poles. I said, wow, that's a thrill. Can you imagine going on top of the hill, skiing blindfolded? Oh my gosh, whoa! Huh? What the heck is going on? And so slalom ski, you got to make those quick turns, left, right, and you're blind. How do they do it? Incredible, right? Well, they have a mentor, a sighted mentor that stays by their side. And first they start on the flat ground, all right? And they just follow the instructions, left, right. And once they master that, then they get up on the hill. Imagine what that feels like the first time. Whoa, we're going down, and I can't see a thing. But again, they have their mentor, their sighted mentor that's with them. And they have to listen very closely. And they have to trust that whatever they say, they will do. Left, right. If they listen, and if they trust, they will get to the finish line. If they don't. It could be catastrophic. It's a lot like our life. We have to listen. We have to trust. We trust and we listen, we'll get to the finish line. And that's what our faith is. You know, I hope so faith, that's fine. That's part of our faith, like trusting God to take care of our needs. That's well, we have to graduate though, you know. You just can't stay there. It's got to get off my knees. That I will trust you. That I will listen and trust and I will act. And if I do that, we'll make it to the finish line.